Welcome everybody. Today, we are here to talk about driving safely with your iPhone. And we are here today. It looks like everybody that is on board this morning is a repeat offender. I'm not seeing any new people, so we don't need a lot of explanation. Although I will say this is the first. This is Senior Tech Tuesday number 20. So this is the 20th session that we have run since last October, when we picked up again after the summer. This is a brand new series, and it's a series that I put together where our next 8 sessions, today and the next 7, are all going to be focusing on those functions from our iPhones that focus on health, fitness, and safety. Today, we're going to be talking a lot about do not disturb while driving, but it is one of the safety recommendations that we would make in regards to using your iPhones while you're in the car, or if you do have to make a call. So we're going to be focusing on that capability. Next week, I'd like everybody to come back. I will talk more about that. And actually, let me do this. I want to get back to the Tuesday page. All right. Here is the Tuesday. Yep, here is the Tuesday page on the website. And this is the page that you get to by going to Tuesday or links.seniortechclub.com/Tuesdays. I will put that up on the screen here in just a bit. But anyway, on this is the page that you would go to in order to register for your Zoom link. But now everybody who's on the line, you already have a Zoom link. So that one's going to work for you, or continue to work for you all the way through May. But here is our plan for the next 8 weeks. So as an example, next week we are going to talk about medical ID. I regard medical ID as mandatory on your iPhones. Everybody in this community should have their medical ID set up on your iPhone. And as much as anything, that is going to be a list of your emergency contacts that first responders could use. But then I also want to focus next week. We're also going to focus on doing SOS calls, and I've actually cleared this. We are going to be making 911 calls, not you. All right. I don't want to get all of you in trouble, all right, for making false calls. But I am going to be making 911 calls next week to demonstrate some of these capabilities for making those emergency SOS calls. And I have cleared that. They know that I'm coming with these calls, and so they're not going to throw me in jail for making false calls. Anyway, back to this Tuesday page. This is the page that you can get to in order to see all of the upcoming topics. Additionally, after these sessions, if you want to get back into the online class pages for any of these sessions, you continue to scroll down to the bottom. And here we go all the way back to Senior Tech Tuesday number 1. And we can continue to scroll down until we have Senior Tech Tuesday number 20, which is today's session with the wrong date. Sorry. I will try and get that corrected. But you can click on this title in order to go to the online class page. And this happens to be our online class page for today. And as we have done in the past, you can go to this online class page in order to review the slide deck. You can go to this online class page in order to download the slide deck that I'm using. Additionally, after we are done today, I will capture the recording. We are recording these sessions, and I am able to record it without getting any of your faces in here. So there is privacy. But if you want to revisit any of these topics, you can come back. And then finally, at the bottom of this page, I've included some of our other lessons from the Senior Tech Club. And so as an example, there is a specific lesson on do not disturb while driving. Once again, you just click on the title in order to get to that lesson. And these are, this will take you into the other materials that we have available. So those of you who have just joined us, we've got 18 people on the line. Joyce is here. Gail, Carmen, welcome everybody. Roger and Barb, Charlene, Barbara Helena. So welcome everybody. Let's get started with our topics. Once again, our learning tools. Excuse me one second. Our learning tools are still going to continue to be the Zoom. I do want people to pose your questions. You can either just pop on the line and say, hey, Don, with less than 30, 40 people, we can do these online questions. If you would prefer, you can use the chat function on Zoom in order to pose a question. Just two pieces of information that we have already talked about, in that if you want to get to the online page, right, for this session, you can go to links.seniortechclub.com/STT20. This is Senior Tech Tuesday STT. This is number 20. Finally, you can go to links.seniortechclub.com/Tuesdays in order to get to that page that we looked at before, that listed all of the upcoming topics, and that also listed the pages from the online pages for all of our previous sessions. Welcome, Marcia. Dee Dee is here from quite a distance this morning. Welcome, everybody. Here's our learning plan today. Distracted driving is dangerous, and I'm going to share some of the data that is associated with that. We also want to spend a little bit of time that it's not only being safe. I want to make sure that you are legal, right? If you happen to be using your iPhone in the car. Finally, I want to propose a couple of approaches that you can use to stay safer and to stay legal. Safe approach number 1, safe approach number 2. And then we're going to end today's session by reviewing 8 helpers that you can use to make it hands-free, right? To be able to go hands-free. This is all part of this series where I want you to be taking advantage of those tools for healthy living and to be safe. So this is our learning plan for the day. So let's fasten those seatbelts and let's talk about distracted driving. The data says that it is not safe, and in fact, the CDC proposes, as they go through and evaluate all of the causes of death, that distracted drivers are responsible for 8 deaths every day. Your brain is just simply not capable of doing multitasking like that. There's another interesting piece of data that came from the CDC that talks about the dangers of doing texting. So they say that sending or reading a text message at 55 miles an hour is the equivalent of driving the length of a football field with your eyes closed, right? And we wouldn't do that. We wouldn't put on blindfold, all right, and drive 100 yards. And so this is pretty dangerous stuff. The CDC, when they talk about this, they will cite actually 3 different types of distractions that come when you are trying to use your phone while you're driving, right? Number one, you are taking your eyes off the road. That's the visual part of it. Number two, many times you are taking your hands off the wheel, right? And number three, and perhaps the one which is the most critical, is you're taking your mind off of your driving. So the data, this is coming from the CDC. This is not Don Fredrickson or the Senior Tech Club making these up. This is the Center for Disease Control really talking about, what are the dangers associated with distracted driving. Right now, there are some laws. Right. So if you take a look specifically at this picture, so here there is a person, and you can see the Apple logo. This person is holding their iPhone in the car. This particular behavior is illegal in Minnesota. Many of us here are from Minnesota, but this activity would also be illegal in other states, right? So we're going to break out, because so many of us are from Minnesota, we are going to break out the Minnesota law, but the Minnesota law is actually pretty practical, right? So we do want to break this out. If you are keeping score, all right, in terms of those states where that ban the use of handheld phones, right? And I'll define that more in just a bit. The blue states in this diagram are the states that have bans of some kind. The lighter blue, the more teal colored, are ones that have partial bans. The gray states are the only states where you are able to drive while you are holding your phone at this particular point. This information is sourced from the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety. So if you tally it up, there are 25 states that ban the use of your phone while holding it, right? There are 36 states that ban all phone use by novice. That should be drivers and not drives, all right? This should be drivers right there. And what a novice driver is typically somebody under the age of 18, all right? And then there are 48 states that ban texting while driving. And of course, when you start talking about 48, I thought somebody was going to ask, hey, Don, what are the two states that do not ban texting? And I decided to put them on the screen. Interestingly, there are some bans. The federal government has banned texting for train engineers, right? So if you are driving a train, any of you drive trains, all right, you should not be texting while you're driving. And then it was kind of interesting in that there are only like 12 states that actually ban cell phone use by school bus drivers, right? Which I also found kind of enlightening, all right? So we have two items now that we are essentially talking about. Number one, distracted driving is dangerous, all right, flat out. And then number two, using your cell phone may be illegal in up to 25 states. So toward that end, I wanted to present a couple of possibilities. And so my safe approach number one, I just wanted to put it out there, is that the safest thing for you to do would be to simply ignore your phone while driving, right? And by the way, this safety approach does not just focus on your phone, but it could also include, I mean, you simply want to try to avoid multitasking while you're driving. That could also include adjusting your mirrors, eating, I know, many of us have eaten. Applying makeup, I try not to do that. Picking music, all right, from your players. And the recommendation is that in regards to your phone, most of these items should be able to wait, all right, until after your trip. The other possibility that still works well is to enlist your passengers to help with navigation or other tasks, right? So safe approach one is to don't do it, right? Don't handle your phone. Don't do other forms of general multitasking while you are driving. Take that phone and put it in the glove box or throw it into the back seat. Somehow keep it out of your reach. Now, many of us would say, well, there are some times where I do need to use my phone while I'm driving, right? And so then the major block of the session today is I wanted to talk about the function on your iPhone, which is do not disturb while driving, right? It is an important tool that can help minimize the possible distraction of using your iPhone in the car. Now, interesting little piece of data. Now this is almost a couple years old at this point. By the way, this function, do not disturb while driving, goes back probably 4 years on the iPhone. But there was research from the CDC about a year ago, maybe almost 2 years at this point, that they surveyed an audience, a community, and they discovered that those people that are iPhone users, only 20% have do not disturb while driving turned on or activated, right? And so the other 80% either don't know about it, all right, it's one of those functions that can be a little bit hidden, or just haven't bothered to activate it. So that's my objective here today, is to, number one, discourage you, all right, from participating in multitasking, all right. But the other, if the reality is if you do need to receive a call or make a call or somehow use your phone, let's take advantage of all the tools that are available to make it as safe as we possibly can, right? So that's our approach. All right, so what is do not disturb while driving? Here are the key points, right? This is what it does. So you turn it on. It is designed to help you focus on the road, right? And it does that by limiting the incoming calls and the notifications and the text messages that you receive. Optionally, if somebody tries to call you while do not disturb while driving is turned on, it will optionally send a text notification back to that person, letting them know that, hey, I'm driving, I'll call you when it's possible. And so we want to walk through all of the setup components of that tool. All right, so here's how you do that. All right. The setup is actually pretty straightforward. So in order to set up do not disturb while driving, you essentially have to go into the settings app, and the only setting that you will be making is to determine how you wish to activate your do not disturb while driving. And you're going to find 4 options that we're going to break out in just a bit. All right. So now let me pull my phone up and use that so we can get to it. So I'm going to encourage everybody to do the same. So now, sorry, you are looking at my home screen on my phone, and here is my settings app. And I am going to go into settings, And on the main settings screen, and you can usually tell the main screen because your name is at the top, you're going to scroll down until you see do not disturb. It doesn't say do not disturb while driving. It says do not disturb. So you tap on do not disturb. By the way, this is the same do not disturb that you might use to put your phone on do not disturb in the evening, or you might use this if you are attending a concert or a church service or a movie. But what you're going to do on this do not disturb screen, you are going to scroll down. So you swipe up in order to scroll down until you get to a section that is called do not disturb while driving, right? And then there is a setting for activate, right? So now let's break out those 4 options for activate, right? So in this, you're really only saying, how do you want to turn on do not disturb while driving, right? And remember what that does is that'll limit your incoming calls. It will limit the notifications that you get while you're driving, right? The 4 options that you have. The first one is automatically, and that this one is sort of interesting in that your iPhone is able to sense movement. And if your iPhone senses movement that might indicate that you are driving in a car, it will automatically turn on do not disturb while driving. It just does it automatically for you, right? Now, something to consider is that if you are a passenger in a car, it's not able to determine if you're driving or a passenger, all right? So that you think of that, if you turn out automatic, and I'm not saying that this makes it bad, but if you are a passenger of a car, it'll turn on do not disturb while driving also. Now I'm going to talk about how you navigate through that if that happens to be the case. Your second option is that if you have Bluetooth in your car, and that is your car's audio system, you can turn on or have do not disturb while driving turn on automatically when you connect to your car's Bluetooth system. All right, that's another way for it to automatically happen. Your third option is to turn it on in the control center, right? And that is a manual option, so that those of you who remember the control center, this is where if you are on your phone, if you have a home button, you're going to swipe up from the bottom of the screen, or if you don't have a home button on your phone, this is where I swipe down, right? So you're looking at my screen on the right-hand side. This is my control center. And here I have a little icon for car. And if I turn that on, that will turn on do not disturb while driving. So it is a function that you can turn on manually, right? That's option number 3. And then option number 4 is that you can have do not disturb while driving turn on automatically when iPhone is connected to CarPlay. Now, CarPlay, I'm going to talk more about that in a bit, but just by way of definition, newer vehicles have oftentimes collaborated with Apple in order to bring Apple CarPlay into the vehicle. And essentially what that means is that it's a direct connection between your phone and your car's audio system. Talk more about that in just a bit. But from a selection here, that would also make it available to you, all right? By the way, if you have, how do you know if you have CarPlay or not? Generally, it's going to take a vehicle that is probably 2017, 2018 or newer. But then even there, like for instance, I know that Toyotas didn't get it until 2019. You're going to have to seek that out right in your own because every vehicle is going to be different. All right, so these 4 items, right? With these items, all you are determining is how do you want to turn on do not disturb while driving. Now, I happen to like, and my recommendation down at the bottom is I like any option that turns it on automatically, right? Because I think for you to remember to turn it on when when you sit down in the car is a little bit too much to expect, right? So any of the automatics, and so the automatics would be here, here, and here. I think any of these are good, right, to be able to take advantage of these capabilities. Now, let me pause for questions. There's a couple more setup items to talk about, but anybody have any questions about, the definition of this do not disturb while driving? Okay. When you do this, you might say to yourself, well, I in my vehicle, I have Bluetooth or I have CarPlay. And so I am able to receive a call and still be hands-free, right? I can receive a call because of how I've set up, my vehicle. And I can take that call hands-free. And I would like to use Do Not Disturb with driving, but I would like to be able to receive some calls, right? Perhaps, you want to be prepared just in case you get an emergency call of some kind, right? There are 2 options, right, that you can use to allow calls to Do Not Disturb while driving. Both of these require just a little bit of setup, right? So your options are, number 1, you can support or allow a second call from the same person within 3 minutes. All right, so just as an example, you might communicate to your children or siblings or grandchildren and tell them that you have Do Not Disturb while driving turned on, but if they call you twice, right, within 3 minutes, the second call can be allowed through, because that's kind of a personal 911 strategy. Call twice, right? If you really need to get to me, call twice, all right? The first time it's going to go directly into voicemail. The second time will be allowed. A second strategy is to allow phone calls from your phone favorites. Now, again, this is assuming that your vehicle is equipped, that you can manage these calls hands-free, but you would like to perhaps support calls from your favorites. Now, you're not limited to just your favorites, in that you can do all contacts or you can do everyone. Let's take a look at those setup options. All right, so we're going to go back into my phone, and sorry, there we go. So you're looking at my phone on the right hand side, and I'm going to go back out, and I'm going to go back out to my home screen, right? Because what you're going to need to do is you're going to go into settings, you're going to scroll down, and you're going to tap on Do Not Disturb, and then a little bit further down, there is a setting for repeated calls. Now, mine is currently on, right? You see my green button on repeated calls there. I just turned it off. And repeated calls then says, there's a little help message right there that says, a second call from the same person within 3 minutes will not be silenced, right? By the way, this function works with any of the Do Not Disturb modes, right? So if you, for instance, for me, I can show you my phone here. I actually have my Do Not Disturb scheduled so that from 9:45 p.m. until 4:30 a.m. in the morning, I have do not disturb turned on, right? So that'll basically disable your phone during the evening, silence your phone during the evening. But the point that I wanted to make is this idea of repeated calls or the other allow call functions will work with all of the do not disturb modes. So it works not only with driving, but it'll also work with scheduled or if you turn on do not disturb during a church service. Right? Your option number 2 is where it says allow calls from. Now, I happen to have chosen favorites, right? And this, we're talking about our phone favorites. I'm going to show that to you here in just a bit. But essentially, if there is anybody that calls who is on my phone favorites list, that call will go through. If I tap on allow calls from, on my screen, if you're looking, you have everyone or no one or favorites, or you can actually set up groups of people, right, from your iCloud contacts. For instance, I have the all important pickleball group. And so that if I wanted to allow emergency calls from my pickleball group, I could choose that group. Now, I personally recommend that you consider if you want to do this, I personally recommend that favorites works very nicely. And so let's review what phone favorites are, right? Phone favorites is the list of favorites that you get in your phone app. All right, once again, I'm going to bring my phone up onto the right-hand side. And I am going to click on the phone app as though I was making a call. And just like I have labeled and number 1 here, you can tap on the favorites icon. And it presumes that many people will have 6 or 8 favorites. Having favorites is highly recommended, right, as a quick way of making phone calls to to people that you call frequently, right? Well, in this do not disturb function, we're saying that these people are the calls that are going to come through. Right? And so if you aren't using favorites, I recommend favorites is a big time saver. And the way to get these favorites, once again, is you tap on the favorite star in your phone app. If you need to add a favorite, you would tap on the plus sign and then retrieve a favorite from your contacts list. Or if you need to edit your favorites list, you can tap on the edit button up on the upper right, and then you can remove people from your list, right? And so what we're talking about here is basically setting up your favorites. And then if you have do not disturb while driving on, and you are telling it, I'm going to go back one screen, by the way, you are saying that you would like to allow calls from your phone favorites, then those 6 or 8 or 10 people that you have in your favorites list, those will all be passed through the do not disturb while driving. Now, this also all assumes that you are able to handle these incoming calls in a hands-free strategy with your vehicle, right? And I'm going to talk more about those strategies in just a bit. Okay, any questions about that? Right, so that this is a way of you to be able to say, well, I like the idea of do not disturb. I really like the idea of do not disturb while driving, but how can I ensure that an emergency call will come in? Well, you might want to consider doing this favorites, right? If you are starting to get telemarketing calls or robocalls on your phone, you certainly don't want them to come through your do not disturb. And by using the favorites, and this all assumes that you haven't favorited your favorite telemarketer, on this list. But the point is that should silence those calls also. Any questions? Okay, terrific. If you are a passenger, and if you have chosen the option to turn on Do Not Disturb while driving automatically, and this is the setting that if your iPhone senses that you are in a moving car, it'll turn on Do Not Disturb while driving. You will get a notice on your home screen or on your lock screen. By the way, this is a picture of my lock screen with the Senior Tech Club logo on it. I get this message on my lock screen that tells me that Do Not Disturb while driving is turned on. All right. If I tap on the screen, or if you have a home button, if you try and tap on your phone in order to activate it while this is turned on, and if you are a passenger, you will get this message on the screen where you have to confirm that you are not driving, right? So you would just tap on number 2, I'm not driving. And then that would allow you to access any of the functions on your phone. Because remember, if you have turned on Do Not Disturb while driving automatically, because the iPhone senses that you are in a moving vehicle, it's not able to determine if you're driving or a passenger. And so that is the way that you can navigate to Do Not Disturb while driving as a passenger. There is one more possible setup item, and that is you can you can actually send an auto reply message to a person that will notify them that you are driving, right? And so in a case like this, you can say, well, anybody who's in my contact list, right? You can say, I would like to turn off this do not, I would like to let them know that I am driving. And there is a special setup for this. All right, let me go down. I'll respond to these questions in the chat here in just a second. But let's go into settings. And I'm actually going to go back. I'm going to go back to the home screen. All right, and so once again, I'm going to go into settings. I am going to tap on Do Not Disturb. And then from here, I scroll down until we get to Do Not Disturb while driving. And there is an auto reply. It says either auto reply to, like mine isn't set right here. Mine should say all contacts, or you can tap on auto reply, and this will allow you to change the message. And here the message is, I'm driving with Do Not Disturb while driving turned on. I'll see your message when I get where I'm going. All right. And so this is just a courtesy notification to somebody, in my case, who is in my contacts list, that they will receive to let them know that I am being safe while doing my driving. Now, this is totally optional, right? You don't have to do this, but if you think it would be useful to be able to let the people in your life know that you are driving, you can actually activate this auto reply message. All right, there's a couple of questions. Joyce is asking, Do Not Disturb while driving may block calls if you are idling. I was waiting for a DMV appointment on a cold morning and nearly missed out. Absolutely. If you, if you are in an idling car, and if you're, depending on how you've turned it on, and it, it senses that you are turned on, it's supposed to, I read information that says that it will, if you are idling in your driveway at home, it's supposed to determine that you're in close proximity to your home, and it should turn it off. But presumably, if you are someplace else, it is possible for you to miss out on a call. So that's a place where you do have to have, have some awareness. It's the same type of awareness that you get if if you use the silence unknown callers right on your phone, right? So that if you leave a message for somebody to call you back, that silence unknown callers will also. So you do have to have an awareness of that. Thank you, Joyce, for saying that. All right. Um, Roger and Barb answered, I've always used airplane mode for do not disturb. Does that serve the same purpose? You know, there's some differences. All right. Airplane mode is the mode that the airlines, this is more of a used to it. There are evolving regulations. Of course, I don't know. I can't think of hardly anybody who's flown in the past year. But it used to be the mode that they would recommend that you put your phone on when you are into an airplane, when you're flying in an airplane. And airplane mode will do a couple things. It'll disable your Wi-Fi. It'll disable your cellular. It'll disable your Bluetooth. It's a stronger shutdown. All right. So airplane mode is a pretty strong shutdown of your phone that would still allow you to use your phone to, let's say, music that's on the phone, listen to music that's on the phone, or to read a book that's on the phone. Whereas do not disturb is a little more specific around notifications and incoming calls. If you have do not disturb, if you have airplane mode on, there's no calls that are coming through, right? But on the other hand, if you have do not disturb while driving or any of the do not disturb modes, it will, it gives you these options to allow some calls. I think it's a better tool for evening, right? So if you schedule a do not disturb, you can still, accept phone calls from your children or grandchildren in the evening if there's an emergency call of some kind. I actually have our security company in my favorites list specifically for the purpose of, if any of our home alarms are set, that would be a call that would come to you in the evening, right? So I hope that answers the question, Roger and or Barb, that you had. All right. I do think that the do not disturb while driving is a pretty good tool. Now, let's talk about some of the other go-free strategies that you might be looking for, or you might need to implement if you want to do hands-free calling. First of all, I wanted to talk, and I know this is Minnesota. Not everybody on this call is from Minnesota, but it looks like probably 90% of the people are from Minnesota. Let's talk about the Minnesota law. And you have to assume that if your state is one of those 26 states that bans held use, that their law is probably pretty similar, right? This is what the Minnesota law says. The law allows a driver to use their cell phone to make a call, to do a text, to listen to music, podcasts, or to get directions, right, from maps or your GPS, but only by voice commands or single touch activation without holding the phone. Right. So if you look at that rule, then if you are in your car in Minnesota, if you are in your car and you are holding your phone, you are breaking the law. Right. You can do all of these functions, however, if you are able to use them either with voice activation, and so within the case of an iPhone, that would be Siri, or if you're able to activate them with a single touch. So as an example, if you have Bluetooth on your vehicle, many times you can tap a button on your steering wheel in order to receive your telephone call through your Bluetooth system. That's legal. But in Minnesota, if you are handling your phone, you have just crossed over the line. There's one exception, and that is you can, or you can't hold the phone in your hand except to obtain emergency assistance. And then, I thought this was a good piece of information. You can't use the phone for video calling. You're not supposed to do video calling if you are the driver. Watching a video, you're not supposed to play Candy Crush or any other game. You're not supposed to view videos. You're not supposed to scroll. You're not supposed to type. You're not supposed to run any non-navigation apps, right? So now that's the Minnesota law. Now, how I wanted to end the session today was I wanted to go through the 8 helpers that can help you go hands-free, right? Number 1, you can put your phone in the glove compartment, all right? That's a great way to go hands-free. And then just ignore it or turn it off, all right? Number 2, I am referencing here, these are the earbuds that used to come with our brand new iPhones, right? So these are the earbuds that go into your ears so that you listen to music or you can do hands-free calling. But now, interestingly, in Minnesota, this would be illegal. This would be okay, right? So that's why I say a single earphone, right? So I can do this. And by the way, when I do this, I probably would have, and this is the diagram that I've put here. This item on the slide deck is this item right here. This is the microphone, right? So if you're going to do this, you're probably going to put the microphone right here. But there is a button on here that will answer your calls or will summon Siri if you press and hold it, right? And so you could drive like this and answer your calls with a single touch. You could summon Siri by pressing and holding, and then you have volume up and volume down. And that's all on this little setting right here, right? So that's strategy number 2 for going hands-free or hands-free helpers, is to use that. Oh, and by the way, here's where I broke that down. I had a little flaw in my deck. So it is illegal to have earbuds in both ears, right, when you're driving in Minnesota. I can't say about other states. Helper number 3 is to pair your iPhone with your car's Bluetooth, right? And oftentimes when you do that, you will have the ability to make and receive calls using steering wheel controls or by using Siri. I'm going to talk more about Siri in just a bit. I actually think that setup on your car is a little tricky, right? This is a case where you're going to have to dig out the manual, very likely, in order to pair your iPhone with your car's Bluetooth. But then once you do that, then you'll be able to use Bluetooth in order to set up, in order to pair your phone with your Bluetooth system in the car. Another option, again, another helper to go hands-free, in that you can actually buy an auxiliary audio cable and connect your phone's audio port, or if you have a newer phone, that is going to be your charging port, in order to connect it into the auxiliary audio port on your car's audio receiver, right? And what this would do is basically play the calls through your car's audio system, and but it would use your phone's mic, and you would be able to make and receive the calls using Siri. All right, I'm going to talk more about Siri in just a bit. So that's option number 4. Option number 5. This is a good plan, in that the safety experts recommend that you purchase and use a phone holder that holds your phone securely. And so I've tried to give that to you in this narrow screen. There's a phone holder that holds the phone to the dash. It holds the phone, supporting it so that you can do a single touch action on it without actually holding it. All right. This does not give you permission to go in and do social media, all right, while you're driving, but it will allow you to activate an app or perhaps answer a call by using a single touch without actually having to hold your phone. You can find, in fact, I think I went on to Amazon, and if you search for car phone holders, I think I got 20,000 entries on Amazon.com. But I had a user in our community make a good recommendation in that she walked into the local O'Reilly Auto store, all right, and said, I have this car, I need a phone holder. And they actually helped her pick out a phone holder and actually let her try it in the car before buying it, right? So I know that I have done a hit and a miss, or a swing and a miss, on some iPhone holders that didn't work in the vehicles very well, right? So you do want to make sure that you get one that can work in the vehicles. There's all kinds of options. Some of them actually attach to the dash with adhesives. Some of them will attach to your vent, right? The heater vents. Some of them will attach to your cup holders. And so there's a bunch of options. And so I really like that idea of going to your local auto parts store and seeing if you can see what some of the options are. But this would definitely be a helper that will help you go hands-free. Another way, this is particularly true if you have an older vehicle, in that you can purchase a Bluetooth earphone that you can use to receive and make calls, or you can purchase a Bluetooth speaker. A speaker like this one would likely attach to your sun visor up on the top. So you could put it up there, and it'll actually bring a Bluetooth system into your car. Sometimes these are battery operated. Sometimes they plug into your cigarette lighter, using one of those, using a charging cable in order to recharge their batteries. Again, another option, and this is particularly true if you have an older vehicle that doesn't have a Bluetooth receiver built into the audio system. This would be, I would opt for the Bluetooth in the audio first, but this would work particularly if you have an older vehicle. Apple CarPlay might be the ultimate hands-free helper right in a vehicle. And we mentioned this Apple CarPlay previously, where many of your newer vehicles, and we're talking hundreds of different models, will offer Apple CarPlay in the vehicle itself, right? The setup of this can actually be pretty easy. Most of these you can get started by simply using one of your regular charging cables, right? This is one of the charging cables. Plug it into your phone and plug it into your car system, and it'll oftentimes recognize, your audio system will recognize that it is an Apple iPhone, and it'll bring this to the screen. And the essence of this is, so for instance, this is your, right here, this is your phone app, right, on the phone. But essentially what Apple CarPlay does is it brings these apps to the car system, right? So you're not duplicating, right? But rather what you're doing is you're using your iPhone, but just providing this full screen presentation of these tools. Now, unfortunately, in my household, we do not have CarPlay in either of our vehicles, but I have had a chance to use it when we have had rental vehicles. And it is really very nice to be able to use these apps. So if you have a newer vehicle, you might want to check with your manual, all right, to see if you have Apple CarPlay, because this would be a great way to bring your hands-free phone functions to your vehicle, right? So that's Apple CarPlay. Finally, whatever system you're using, I think it's going to be good for you to develop your Siri skills, right, as the 8th and final helper for going hands-free. So, as an example, I've given you 5 commands that you might be looking to use if you're using your phone in your car. You can say, I'm not going to say, hey Siri here, because I don't want everybody's, I tried to muffle that, but you can say, after summoning Siri, you can say, call Gail Sidursky, or call Sophia Sofun. You can say, play a podcast, play, the name of a podcast. You can say, play a music artist or a music album on a service. If you're using Apple Music, you just say, play, Lake Street Dive, right, as an example. Or if you say, play Lake Street Dive on Spotify, Spotify works with Siri. Or play Lake Street Dive. There are a handful of these music services that work. You can also tell Siri to play a text message, so that if you have an incoming text message from somebody, you can say, play messages, right? And then finally, you can ask Siri to give you directions to a business, a location, or an address. And this audio works best using the Apple Maps program, but it will also work with some of the other mapping tools that are available. All of these, right, sorry, I'm messing these up, need to be practiced before they're needed, right? You want to make sure that you are relatively comfortable with doing these functions before you are driving in the car, all right? And so it's worth taking some time to try them out, getting a feel for how they work. Some cases you might want to park in your driveway and do a little bit of practicing, or in the other case, you can practice many of these just sitting in the couch in your living room. But if you want to be hands-free, right, you want to look to develop your Siri skills so that you can use these voice activation tools in order to perform these functions. Okay, here's where we have been today. We started out by spending some time talking about how distracted driving is dangerous. We also reviewed the laws, right, and specifically the Minnesota laws. I've given you 2 basic safe approaches, right? One is to simply don't use your phone while you're driving. That might be the safest. If you do need to use your phone while you're driving, consider activating Do Not Disturb while driving. And we talked about some of the options that you have for allowing emergency calls from your favorites too, right? And then here at the end, we reviewed 8 helpers that will help you go hands-free. All right. Our basic mission here is we want you to be safe, right? And that is all part of our series that we're involved with. Once again, if there's any follow-up questions, you can send me an email at don@seniortechclub.com. Don't forget, you can go to links.seniortechclub.com/Tuesdays in order to get more information. Finally, our next online session will be next Tuesday at 10 a.m. And we are going to talk about medical ID, which I feel is a must-have right on your phone. We'll also show you the SOS calling capabilities of your phone. And remember, you can keep track of any of those topics by going to the Tuesdays page on the SNU Tech Club website. All right, so if there's any other questions, if you have anything that you want to pose to me, at the end, just hang out here for a little bit. Other than that, please, everyone, stay well, keep watching your distance, wash your hands, get vaccinated, and then keep learning as we continue our programs. All right. So with that, let's sign off. If you do have any questions, you're welcome to hang on and pose me a question. You're welcome, everybody. Barbara, Charlene, Lori. Thank you for the comments, and stay safe, everybody.